Morning, guys. So, I was homeless before, and that kind of became important today. I met a homeless man on the way from the gym to these Airbnb properties, and it was a pretty heavy conversation. Heavy for me. I don't think he wanted it to be heavy. He just wanted $2, right? And I want to share some of that with you because, as a business owner who was homeless and as a business owner who almost drove himself back into homeless a couple of years ago, I think it's important we kind of have real conversations, more than just how to run an Airbnb business. So I met this guy leaving the gym, and he stops me. He asks for fitness advice, and it's if you've ever seen a homeless guy, they learn to hustle. Every day is a conversation for $1, and my first big career was in sales, and I saw it coming. So I sat down next to him. I'm like, you know what? We're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna see where this goes. I'm already prepared for every sales technique he's probably learned to make some money. He's like, I used to be a truck driver. He pulls out his phone. He's like, let me show you my Facebook account. And he's trying to show me his past. And this became a theme, so stay tuned, right? And he's like, yeah, I had a heart failure. Doctor says I have kidney failure, so I can't drive anymore. And he's asking me about fitness advice and then stuff. And he's, of course, trying to wind into his circumstance, which is that he can't work. And I immediately noticed that he smelled like alcohol. When my dad was homeless, he had a substance addiction. And surprisingly, when I was homeless, I didn't have an addiction. When I was homeless, I went homeless because of sheer pride and stupidity. Because a company that I worked for, I was super naive. I gave my whole life away to this company, and they screwed me over. And I was blinded by that. But in the same way, my dad was blinded by a substance addiction and these lies, these internal lies, this cycle, and substance really drove that. For me, it was this pain of betrayal, but I still was lying to myself. And this guy, he was lying to himself too, and that's kind of where the story starts to take a fun turn. He lost a 34-year relationship. He was married for 34 years, and she left him. He's got grandkids, 3 grandkids. And I immediately related to him and the loss, the heartbreak of somebody deciding that they didn't want you anymore. Because you guys know, a few years ago, I went through the greatest emotional pain of my life, losing the very first person that I ever loved. Childhood trauma, I kept everybody on the outs, right? And that's when I knew this conversation was going to be interesting, because I've been really contemplative about loss and about purpose as a man, right? To want to provide for someone, protect them, and then they decide that they don't want you or need you anymore. Of course, I will recognize there's a lot of fault of my own, especially with childhood trauma, that I lost that relationship. And this guy was like a broken dude. And what came back 45 seconds later, after showing me his phone and that how he used to be a truck driver, 45 seconds later, he's like, yeah, take a look. Like, I used to be a truck driver. He was in a loop, and it hit me immediately. It reminded me of those videos that you'll see of like a bear just circling in the zoo, or an elephant that just constantly makes the same head motion because they've been trapped in their own head because they're trapped in the zoo for so long that they're just on a loop. It's the only way that they can get by. And that's when I said, hey, you drinking? And he immediately looks at it as like he had a water bottle that was definitely not water. And he didn't answer, but his eye immediately darted to his drink and then darted away. And I'm like, I remember I said, man, first off, you need to get out of your phone. You need to get out of the past. You're stuck in your past, constantly going back to when you mattered. And that has to hurt, right? That you were important once, and now you're not important to anybody. And that almost made me cry, because I remember what that felt like, right? I was important once to this person I loved so much, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. And that's what crushed me. And so I told this man, you are trying to dig into your past for a time that you were important, and you're going to stay there for the rest of your life. The guy's 54. And I feel like so many men are here, right? The world is changing. I don't want to make this about masculinity or about men's issues, but men have it tough. I don't know if you guys can relate. Men have it tough lately, right? Society has wanted to change the terms of the social agreement. And yeah, we've only had the nuclear family for like since 1940, right? Where men go to work, women stay at home, have kids. Before then, like farmers would work together, right? The baker would work from home, and the blacksmith would work from home, and families would all be together all the time, right? So we had this new toxic nuclear family thing, and now men are being kind of pushed even out of that, right? And so men have really lost their purpose because we were raised to be providers, and I feel like society wants to tell us that we shouldn't be anymore. And this guy's grasping at straws, just sitting on a sidewalk in the middle of nowhere, asking for $2, and trying to get by. And I told him, like, the advice that I gave him, I was just reaching to try to find something that maybe he would listen to, because he's like in this internal loop, like I said, like the bear in the zoo. I'm like, every morning, I just try to do one thing right. That's it. I just try to do one thing right. That's how hey, Darrow. Good to see you, man. I just try to do one thing. And if that's just deciding that I'm gonna go get a coffee, right? If that's it, if I'm just deciding to go get a coffee today, I'm gonna go grab a coffee and I'm gonna succeed in that. And then maybe I'll also decide that I'll go to the gym after that. And then if I succeed at that, cool. And I told him that the mind does not recognize the difference between winning when something is hard or winning when something is superfluous or easy. And if you feel stuck, rutted, where you just feel overwhelmed, where you can't do anything, the first step is to do little things. Just every day, just do a couple little things so the morning goes your way, and that's it. And then after doing a few things that work, then maybe you can turn your attention to something that's a little harder to do. Like, in his case, reconnecting with his daughter or his granddaughters, because he has so much shame from the failure of his relationship, and now he's lost. He lost his job because of his heart failure. He lost his relationship. Now his kids are estranged. And now he's homeless, and he's struggling with his pride and his dignity on a sidewalk in Dallas. And every day, it looks like he's just trying to find a few bucks to get a drink so he can numb the pain. And that's what I struggled with for 2 years. Right after my relationship ended, I drank every day for 2 years. I didn't drink a ton. I'd have my coffee in the morning, I'd work on my Airbnb business, and then I'd go and run off and, have a drink by 5 p.m. just to make it all go away. And this man is repeating that same cycle that I went through. And it wasted 2 years of my life. And I probably will see this guy again because he hangs out in the neighborhood. And I don't know how many years since his relationship ended, but it looks like he's wasting his. But what's really funny, by the time we got 30 or 45 minutes into the conversation, we're talking about what he used to do for work, what he could do, because I'm trying to get his mind out of his phone. Like every 2 minutes, he's like, he wants to show me his phone again. I'm like, dude, that's the past. You need to drop it. You need to let it go. Sorry about the siren, guys. Sirens are fun. And so I tell him, you could get into logistics sales. If you drove a truck for 34 years, or however long you drove a truck for, you could get into logistics, right? You could work with a freight broker, a logistics company, and whatever. And then I said, hey, also, you could start flipping stuff. I was just on OfferUp last week buying a bunch of pianos, and man, people are selling these things on the cheap. And if you did a lot of moving back in the day, it would be easy for you to move these pianos. You could buy these pianos, like clean them, take better photos, and sell them at a markup, and do all the moving yourself, because moving's the hardest part. He's like, yeah, dude, I used to move pianos. And he started telling me exactly how to take the legs off of a grand piano. And he found this new sense of I'll tell you all about this, right? And you could see him come to life about something that he knew, where otherwise this whole time he's just being glassed over. And this is I don't want to get into a video about timing or something, but this is where it got really fun. And maybe there was some divine timing, right? I just moved pianos a couple weeks ago for these Airbnb properties that I'm in right now, right? And I had this idea for him to download OfferUp to look for some pianos. And then he said, yeah, I know how to move pianos. I just happen to have a piano sled, right? I had to overpay for a piano sled because my movers couldn't move a piano that had a broken leg. You guys might remember from a previous video. And I'm like, well, dude, I got a piano sled a block away. If you start moving pianos, if you've got a buddy with a box truck, download Thumbtack and TaskRabbit and get on Craigslist and just list yourself as a piano mover, and people will pay you $500 for a piano to move a piano. He's like, dude, I already have a box truck, and I've got guys in a box truck, and I've got all the shrink wrap and everything. I'm like, well, dude, you're good. You're just ready to go. Call me as soon as you need a piano sled, and that's it. And we got this close to him just downloading an app in his phone and putting his name into the universe to make 500 bucks. If he could make it tomorrow, because there's not enough piano movers in Dallas. The piano mover I called, they're like a 4-day, 5-day wait. And people are trying to move these things today. They need it now. And he then backed away from it because he's how do you say, he's like gun shy, like once bitten, twice shy. He's like, buy me a drink or buy me a beer, is what he said in response to that. The moment he got to the point that he could change his life, all of that anxiety and fear that he's gonna fuck up again came back, and he wanted to recess back into just having a drink in that moment. He's like standing on the edge of oblivion. He just had to jump and do something, right? And I'm like, no, I don't have any cash. I'm not gonna buy you a drink. But dude, right now, pick up your phone, get your phone out, let's download Thumbtack, right? And it took the world to get this guy to actually make a step. And this is one of the human condition parts that I think I want to share with you. People are afraid of change. Like big time people are afraid of change. They're afraid of the discomfort of change. This guy's life sucks. His wife left him, he's drinking every day, he's homeless, and he's still afraid of change. He was more interested in telling me that he once was important, that he once did something right. He wanted to tell me that he knows how to move a piano and that he's capable, but he doesn't want to put himself out there, money on the line, and screw up again. He is so hurt from his failures that he wants to hide from any other opportunity to fail. I think a lot of people have checked out like that. And if you watch my content, you're watching content to try to be a business owner, right? And I've failed big time. And some of my best lessons that I've taught you guys come from failures, right? So like pricing strategy. If any of you guys watch pricing strategy, I had a bunch of empty apartments during COVID and they were ugly, right? My apartments aren't pretty, especially like 2017, they were ugly. And the only way to get them booked was to know how to like change prices in ways other people weren't changing them. So one of my greatest failures, which is my inability to make a pretty Airbnb because I was like a 26-year-old kid, and you don't expect a dude to do interior design. I learned pricing strategy because of that. And then COVID, having 103 properties in COVID, a lot of them in Philly, and not really being able to navigate that situation forced me to adapt again. And there's a bunch of failure there. And my failures have created maybe the best parts of me, right? And the failure of my relationship 2-3 years ago, right? And the drinking that happened for 2 years and the downward spiral of blame and stuff. Who knows? Maybe there will be some best part of me that comes from that too. And I know that same feeling that guy had, that there's something like right at your fingertips that you could do and it could materially change your life, but you're afraid to do it because you fucked up. You fucked something else up. You screwed something else up. And now you know that you've got this long shadow of shame because you couldn't pull something off. You let someone down, you lost a job, you lost some money in an investment, your friends are mad at you because you can't keep your life together, you struggle with an addiction. And it's that self-judgment, that belief that there's some sort of cohesiveness to the failures of your past and the damnation of your future that keeps you from really jumping on something risky. I'll tell you, the times that I've really done the best is when I felt like I was winning, right? And that's where I came up with this little mini philosophy from earlier. We're gonna bring it back full circle. When I felt like I was winning because my businesses were growing, right? From 10 properties to 100 properties in just a couple of years. And then I was doing this other stuff and my content was booming back then too. Everything just felt right. I could not be stopped. You could not stop me. And I would take any risk on the planet with a smile on my face, chest out, the sky's always blue, sun's always shining. But the moment that I was on the back of failure, that I let someone down, that I should be ashamed of myself, you couldn't get me to do anything. You couldn't get me to do anything new. I'd make a YouTube video and I would hide. Maybe I'd drink, maybe I'd play video games. And I think we get so rutted in to kind of our recent wins and losses, and it becomes part of our identity that it can become a death sentence. And that's why I believe in this concept of self-efficacy, right? This concept of self-efficacy is if you believe that you have the ability to do something, it's different than self-confidence, right? You believe that you have the ability to do something, even if you don't have the skills right now, you have the ability to learn, you have the ability to grow and change. This concept of self-efficacy is reinforced by the fact that you accomplish stuff, even small things. Right? So I'm putting together a sleeper sofa in one of my Airbnbs right now, is what I'm doing. And once I accomplish this, I'll probably feel super great. But if we can set up a little theater every day, just the theater of accomplishment. You decide you're gonna get up at a certain time. You decide that you're gonna do a little bit of journaling. You decide that you're gonna go walk to get a coffee, so you're walking. You decide that you're gonna have a conversation with a stranger. You decide that you're gonna go to the gym. The fact that your mind set an intention and your body cashed the check, that feedback loop of continuous saying and doing makes you feel like you have efficacy, makes you feel like you can accomplish. And that builds momentum, the ball gets faster, and then you can crash that like higher momentum, higher velocity ball through a greater obstacle. So Tony Robbins says to do the hardest thing every day first. I might say if you are wounded, do it backwards, right? Don't do the hardest thing. Don't even think about the hardest thing. Don't think about the thing that you know you'll fail at. You need a win streak, and you can make that win streak a bunch of little stuff. And I hope that for this guy. If I have to move another piano in the next few days because I find a good deal on a piano, I'm gonna call him. We're gonna move that piano together. We're gonna have another conversation. He's gonna make some money. I'm gonna say, dude, did you put your own name in the hat to be a piano mover yet? Let me show you, let me see your ads. Let me see your thumbtack. And I pray to God when I meet this guy again that he took a first step. I fully expect him not to because I understand his condition. And it's kind of sad, right? This is maybe one of the final things I want to leave you with. You can know someone's going to fail. You just see it in their eyes. You can just see the failure. You can see that anything that you say to this person, they're still going to fail. And I talked to one of my best friends last night. His name's Jair. It was his birthday. And we were talking about God's gifts, right? To evangelize and to try to like give someone some light, give someone some hope. And I remember hearing a video about, gifting people, like even like, fellowship like that. And the video talked about how you are not allowed to judge someone for how they use your gifts. Like you can't expect them to take your word or even your money. If you give someone money, you can't expect them to take that gift and use it a certain way. And just like counseling somebody and trying to give them life advice, you can't expect them to use it. And we went down that rabbit hole, and at the end of that rabbit hole, we came to the conclusion that sometimes maybe someone rejecting your life advice, the gift you give them, is the whole point. That they need to be standing at the edge of it all, like ready to give up on everything, and realize that in the wake of their past, there were so many people that were willing and trying to help them, and they just rejected the help. And that's the only way that they'll be able to hold themselves accountable later in the future, is to know when they're tallying it up at pure rock bottom, that people were trying to help and they were bullshitting themselves and they were pushing people away. And so I don't think my conversation with this man is gonna help him today, but I do think it was a seed planted that could be part of the scale that could tip in a week or a month or a year. It's real tough to be a guy. He's 54, feel like he's on the back end of it. And he's on the back end of it because he's choosing to be at the end of it. He's checked out. He's gonna look at his phone for the rest of his life and look at his semi-truck that he used to drive. That's gonna be the definition of his identity until he changes. And maybe some of you guys can relate to that, right? That there's something that you did once that was good, you feel like you peaked, and then you messed it up and it went away, whether it was a relationship or a job. This economy's tough, right? A lot of people are getting evicted, a lot of people have lost their jobs, savings. And the only way that we can get through something that's more difficult is to try even harder than we did before. And that can really be tough. Imagine being in a hole. Being in a hole sucks. It's gotta be uncomfortable. Now imagine digging yourself out of a hole. It sucks even more. It sucks more than sitting in the hole because it's work to get out. You're still in the hole and you're working to get out of it while being in the hole. It's like triple the suck, but you will never undo the suck of your failure unless you triple down to get out of it. So yeah, that's my thoughts today for you guys. Definitely not Airbnb related, but thanks for hanging out with me. I'm gonna put this together, and then maybe I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for kicking it. Bye, guys.